Let's look at example 3a. We want to know where secant of theta equals 2. Now, we don't ever list our secant or cosecant points on the unit circle. So instead of saying where secant of theta equals 2, I'm going to change this to our cosine of theta equals 1/2 and flip the point. Because remember, I can do that. If I switch between these two, all we have to do is flip the point and we get it. And now we see I want to know where the cosine or the x value is 1/2. And we actually already did that problem. That's right up here, example 2a, where the cosine value is 1/2. So it's going to be the same answers. These are the angles that I plug in that give me a cosine value of 1/2 or a secant value of 2. So let's just use those angles we already got. We had pi thirds and 5 pi thirds. And once again, it does ask for all. So we're going to add our 2 pi k to account for all our coterminal angles. Let's try a little bit of a harder one. Tangent of theta equals square root of 3. So in this one, I want to know what angles give me a tan value of root 3. Now, you are welcome to look at the unit circle we made in class. However, I do have a trick to help you get this one down a little better. It's easy to pull the sine and cosine values off the unit circle because they're the x and y values. However, there's a little shortcut for tangent. Now, you now know at this point that we really only care about these 3 points in the quadrants. Now, here's the nice thing about the tan values. The tangent values start big and get small. So the tangent value up here is root 3, the biggest number. The one in the middle is 1, and the one down below is 1 over root 3. They start bigger, and then they get smaller as you go down. So that's one way to think of the tangent values. So if I want to know where on my unit circle do I have tan values of root 3, that's going to be this one. That's one of my root 3's. Now I also want the other positive root 3. Remember, tangent is positive in this quadrant and in this quadrant. These two quadrants, it's negative. So what I want to do is take this point and reflect it across, and that one will also have a tangent value of root 3. So what angles are these? This one, remember, don't think in degrees, is pi thirds. And then to get all the way around to this one is going to be 4 pi thirds. So I want these two angles, and I still want all my angles. So I'm going to add my 2 pi k to account for all my coterminal angles. Now, something I want you to notice. You are more than welcome to keep your answer like that. However, notice that these two angles are exactly pi apart. So instead of listing two answers like this, I could just list my first answer and say plus pi k. So I start right here at pi thirds, and I add pi to get to this one, add pi to get to this one, add pi to get to that one, and that gives me all my coterminal angles. Or you could minus pi, minus pi, minus pi, minus pi. That gives you all your coterminal angles. So Either one of these answers is totally accurate, totally fine. These are the angles I can plug into here that will give me the right tangent value. Last one we want to do. Cotangent of theta equals -1. Once again, we don't really like to leave things in terms of secant, cosecant, or cotangent. So I'm going to come in here and change this to tangent. And to do that, I need to flip this fraction, but -1 flipped is still just going to be -1. So now I want to think of where on the unit circle is the tangent value of -1. Well, if we reference this one up here, first off, we know the one in the middle is going to be the 1. So we just have to think, where will the tangent be a -1? So here's my unit circle. I know from all students take calculus that tangent is negative in this quadrant and in this quadrant, in 2 and 4. And I know it's going to be halfway between those two quadrants because that's the one that gives me 1 halfway between them. So I just need to figure out what these angles are. This one is going to be 3 pi fourths. And this one is 7 pi fourths. Or we could go the clockwise direction and say -pi fourths. Either one is fine. Now notice once again that my angles are exactly pi across from each other. So that means I could either list them separately and add 2 pi k to both of them. That gives me all my coterminal angles. Or, because they're both pi apart, I could just list one of them and do plus pi k. And that will account for all the same angles. So that is how we find our coterminal angles. Hopefully that will help you out with all of lesson 1.4. We can either plug angles in to get points off of the unit circle, or we can find the points on the unit circle and get angles as our answer. What angles give you that point? And that should be all for 1.4.